Welcome to another episode of Washington in Focus. I'm Washington State government reporter for the Center Square, Carlene Johnson, along with Western Washington reporter for the Center Square, Spencer Polly, who has some not great news for anybody who has a child at Seattle Children's Hospital. We're on the verge of the first ever potential nursing strike at the 118-year-old hospital. It's never happened before, but we've got apparently nurses ready to walk out. Spencer, can you set the stage for us on what hopefully can be avoided here as contract negotiations continue?
Sure. So the Washington State Nurses Association held a vote over Sunday and Monday with over 2,100 registered nurses at Seattle's Children's Hospital. And they have overwhelmingly authorized a potential strike following that union vote. That means that within the next couple of days, as bargain contract negotiations occur between the union and the hospital, the union now has the right to strike if they want to do so, but they haven't yet. I think we need to be clear on that as of this recording, but anything can happen within the next couple of hours, the next few days over the holiday break. So that's where we're at right now. And as you said, yes, this could be devastating for families, especially those that patients at the Seattle Children's Hospital who may have to get care elsewhere as we enter the holidays here with Christmas, New Year's. They might have to look elsewhere, including Stanford out in California, to get the similar care. That's where I'm seeing reports of. So that's where we're at right now. The bargaining team is still determining if the strike is necessary. And Carlene, do you want me to go ahead and talk about what the union is seeking here?
Yeah, I was going to ask, I'm assuming these are the usual, sticking points for contract. We want more money. We want better benefits, that sort of thing. So if you'll lay out for me, what they're negotiating for, because my understanding is nurses in general here in Washington State, rightly so, paid well. Nurses at Seattle Children's, also paid pretty well for the hard work that they do.
Sure. You hit it on the head there. I mean, obviously, union is seeking higher nurse wages. They're arguing that the current pay levels lag behind those at many other West Coast children's hospitals. So let's get into the data there. According to the collective bargaining agreement that just expired between the union and the hospital, entry-level nurses earn a base wage of $47.60 per hour, while the highest end there of that grade is 36 years of experience, earning $89.80 per hour. Now, that contract expired November 21st, but the Seattle Children's Hospital says that the average Washington State Nurses Association represented nurse works just 34 hours per week, and they earn about $77,000 in salary and wages. Or if you want to group in the total compensation, when you consider overtime, paid leave, premium pay, all of that, it's over $100,000. Now, That's a good chunk of change, Carlene, as you said. Now, Seattle Children's Hospitals their most recent proposal offered nurse wages an increase about an average of $10.62 per hour. That's about a 17% increase.
A nice bump in pay. That's a little bit shinier than a COLA increase. My goodness.
That's right.
Okay. Sorry.
That's right. But nurses decline that offer, but there's more to this, right? So we're just talking about the salary, but there's also more to this. We're talking, workplace protections against workplace violence, hospital-wide break nurses. This prevents just a double load of patient assignments, which is something that nurses are saying they're having to deal with, and an increased sick time accrual to prevent nurses from having to work if they're sick, which I don't think anyone wants. So that's where we're at the table right now. Now, this is all just kind of coming to the Seattle Children's Hospital amid big changes, especially at the federal level. Now, I've talked about this before, where there was, the other trauma center in King County, we're talking Harborview, but Medicaid reimbursements to hospital systems are being cut under President Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Now, these reimbursements may have been used incorrectly, and that's what the federal government is trying to do. So what we're seeing here now is Seattle Children's Hospital trying to balance the impacts of this loss of reimbursements with a fair contract for nurses here. And that's where we're at here currently.
My goodness. Yeah. There's so many different layers of this, right? I recall covering the legislative session early this year in 2025, and a lot of discussion about the need to, help our hospitals in this state become more profitable. Sounds like Seattle Children's is maybe in a little bit of a better situation there for the margin of profitability for them. But I know many are offering, especially the rural hospitals, are operating at 1% or less. Those margins are, very dangerous. Then you talk about additional cuts. I remember there was a lot of discussion during the session of lift some of the burdensome taxes and other regulations on these hospitals so that they can have a little bit more wiggle room there. But I don't think anything ended up getting passed. In fact, I think the things that did get passed during this session, kind of took things in that other direction, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. What about that? Where does Seattle Children's end up in that profitability thing? I think your article, I don't have it in front of me, Spencer, but your article referenced that.
So the 2024 fiscal year, the hospital posted an operating margin of about 5.67%. So much better than those rural hospitals you were mentioning. So they are in a better position here. But Seattle Children's also estimates the impacts from the Medicaid cuts to reach tens of millions of dollars in the 2026 fiscal year, and growing to hundreds of millions over the next 5 years in state and federal taxes and cuts. But we have to see how that goes. That is a broad guess from the hospital. But right now they are in good capacity, being in the city, as well as Harborview, which I've talked before, that they have a good cash flow going as well. But this is something obviously to look at. But I think Seattle Children's right now has to focus on this bargaining agreement with the nurse union, just to avoid devastating blows to its patient care. I mean, this is just bad timing with everything going on at the end of the year. And so this is something that the bargaining talks have to go on for a while here, but we'll see.
Timing, right? I mean, I only imagine if I had a child, a loved one, receiving care. Many of those kids had friends and family members that have had to go through, cancer treatments, surgeries, whatever with their children. It's just a heartbreaking situation to begin with. You add Christmas on it, and now a threatened potential walkout. Now, do we have are negotiations supposed to continue through the holiday? I would think somebody's going to take a break and kind of table this for a minute and get back to it. Have you heard anything along those lines?
I just heard that negotiations have been ongoing, but I haven't heard anything in particular if they're going to take a break on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, etc. I mean, it is, as we're recording this, is December 23rd.
Right.
Still a work day for a lot of people. That's why I'm going to keep refreshing the page here, just checking to make sure, see if they have reached an agreement or if the strike has been called before all this happens, so that families, patients can adapt and adjust. Now, I think it's important to note, Carlene, that when a strike is called, and the Washington State Nurses Association, as required by state law, has to give the hospital a 10 days notice. Just to give the hospital a chance to adjust. So there will be a buffer there. And I think that kind of helps. So if the strike were to be called here on December 23rd, it would be till next year when we see that go into effect.
Okay. Well, yeah, but even 10 days, right? If you do have to relocate patients and families, like if you're relocating then because your child has to be hospitalized for the care they're receiving, have to relocate to another state. I can't imagine. So fingers are crossed that these negotiations can result in something both sides can agree to. You can only offer so much money. The hospital, has to be able to pay those salaries and benefits. There's got to be a tipping point there where the nurses obviously realize that as well, critical care they provide. Well, Spencer, thank you so much for staying on top of this. I encourage our readers to check his article out at thecentersquare.com/Washington. You can follow this. And Spencer, I know you've agreed to update this story if we get any kind of a breakthrough here. Would be a nice year and nice way to wrap things up if they can come to agreement. So thank you for covering this so closely. And thank you for watching another episode of Washington in Focus along with Spencer Pauly. I'm Carlene Johnson.